Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows. I'm going to get through this intro. Where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. Not really the latest episode because I'm actually kind of a couple episodes behind. But a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, Pamela continuing, obviously where last episode ended off with Rosita getting snatched. Wasn't just her, it's everyone that's from Alexandria and Hilltop and everyone that's connected to all that's in the Commonwealth got snatched up by Pamela because, hey, she's trying to make a point. She wants Yumiko to prosecute Eugene because she wants to try and make an example because it's right, she wants people to know, hey, there are consequences. You do all this deplorable stuff, and she's like, no, let's keep it a buck. You're just out for a vendetta. Once again, Eugene's not even directly responsible. I'm like, what about the crowd of people who were there? No one stepped in when hey, Sebastian was trying to kill Max, and then Eugene just pushed him towards a walker. No one lifted a finger yet. It's all falling on Eugene. No one's got no rebuttal to that. I'm like, there was a literal crowd of people as Sebastian was screaming, help me, help me. So it's obviously Pamela's on her thing. She's all about control. She's a control freak, and for so long, all of this has been under her control, under her family's control. So it's it is this thing of, it's her legacy. So that's what this is really about. This is about your power. This is about your legacy being jeopardized, and you're trying to rein it back in. I mean, you had to deal with all that rebuttal from people and stuff like that, but then I was like, you know what? No. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to rein it all back in, and I'm make people see oh, this is all kind of mistake, And she's even being tactical about it. It's right, have the guards there, but pull back the amount of forces, because if we show too much of a force there, we show too much armed presence there, it could lead to people having issues again, and it could just steer the pot all over again. So obviously Yumiko's I'm not going to prosecute Eugene. It's yeah, all your friends that are missing, well, they'll stay missing. At the very least, she didn't just, because she knows she can't just straight up kill them, because she needs them as leverage to make things go the way she needs them to. So it is a situation where Yumiko's in a tough spot. She's in this situation where it's okay, so what do I do? If I do this, I'm sentencing Eugene to death, but this is the only way to protect our friends, especially because her brother is being put on the chopping block as well, essentially. But I did, because she went to her brother and was what should I do? And her brother was this is the only thing you can do. You're trying to protect your friends. They would want you to kind of do what was necessary, because they would do what was necessary for you. So they wouldn't want you to put yourself in a situation where, because it's not just Eugene and their friends, it's also her. You will suffer any ramifications if you stand against Pamela, because I love that line of right, kind of what do you say, sunshine is kind of the best way to kind of fight infections or something like that. It's basically you brought Pamela and the whole corruption of this whole system to light, and what happened? Pamela's still standing. There's still supporters. I mean, there's a lot of people who have every reason, some of the higher ups, who have every reason to back Pamela, because keeping her in power keeps them in power. So it's, trying to cozy up with the person that's still got all the power and stuff. So, but it's yeah, she's still standing despite everything that Max and Eugene did. So it is a situation of right, how do you fight against that? The only thing you can do is survive. And that ends up being the question time and time again in the series, that is more than just survival, Yeah, we'll get our humanity back once we survive. But it's yeah, surviving is fine and dandy, but, surviving isn't just enough. You can't just survive. You got to live. And can Yumiko live with herself doing all this? So she met up with Connie, and Connie had stabbed a dude, and it's right, let's use this guy to lead us to our friends. And Yumiko was let me do it, because you're already kind of under their watch. If they find you, they'll arrest you. And Connie, I was about to call her Colleen. Connie put her trust in Yumiko, and she feels like she failed her, because it's right, the one lead they had ended up figuring out he was being followed. So it's a lot to kind of end up handling on your own. So, and especially considering how desperate she is, she probably didn't, the desperation probably plus she's been her skills have probably gotten a little rusty, considering been doing her thing in the Commonwealth. But she ends up talking to Eugene, which Eugene's like, right, whatever ends up befalling me, it'll be fine, you know? But it also points out, how do we know that we can trust that Pamela will keep her end of the bargain when this is all said and done? It's like, you don't. Because she could always keep moving the goalposts. It's like, okay, you did this for me? Cool, cool, cool. Now you're going to keep doing stuff for me. You know, I might release a few of your friends here and there, if even at that. But also, who's to say, you know, once again, I still doubt she'd straight up kill him because she doesn't still need them for leverage, but it's like, once again, she could still keep moving the goalposts as much as she wants. So it's like, you can't 100% trust Pamela, seeing it as like, even before you got here, she couldn't be trusted, because it's like, yeah, the nepotism of it all, of like, yeah, I'm gonna look after my son. She doesn't know what he was up to, but it's still the thing of, yeah, the power and prestige and the BS that this place was kind of built off of. So Yumiko's forced to give this press conference about, like, hey, that she's going to convict Eugene, or she's going to prosecute him and bring down the full weight of everything on him. Now, what I thought was so interesting, too, is she made sure, it's like, oh, I'd like to introduce you to someone, my brother. Now, she's trying to put her brother in the spotlight. It's like, oh, everyone there who's might be, like, reporting on this, or anyone, all the citizenry that's there, putting him in the spotlight, because if for whatever reason Yumiko doesn't do what Pamela wants her to do, which ends up being the case, at the very least her brother is in the spotlight now. People know him, what he does for the community, and if anything happens to him, it's going to look bad. Like, yo, what happened to her brother? Like, he disappeared. You want to make him kind of, well, you want him to be a face and name people associate with, along with what he brings to the community. That way Pamela is kind of, you're boxing her in a corner where she can't do anything to him in response against you, because it will be like, oh, something's up, because he's now a face and name people are going to recognize now. So that's what Yumiko was hoping for. But she makes her declaration about, you know, right, being a lawyer again gave her an opportunity. She wants to seek justice, and she knows that this is all a farce, and she wants to do what she can, especially after hearing about, like, some of, like, obviously Hornsby, and obviously the whole Daryl and Carol situations, which we'll get to in a bit. But because of that, Yumiko was like, no, I'm going to defend Eugene. I'm going to see justice served, and walked away. Like, her brother was kind of like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, because, you know, it's like, right, you got Pamela, like, against you, and that's not, you don't want to be on her bad side. So there's that type of situation with the whole of it all. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where that kind of goes. I'm assuming we are going to get a full-blown court case. But because she's done that, I'm curious what Pamela's going to do, because she can't do anything now that Yumiko said that, because that's why she couldn't just straight up execute Eugene. For one, she wants to make it seem like there is law and order here. She wants to prove, like, yes, a fair trial will happen. So she's going to have to try and keep this above board, but she still is going to play hardball and force. It's like, right, I was going to use him as leverage to get you to do what I need you to do. Well, I'm going to use that leverage to now make you lose this case, because it's like, cool, I have all this leverage against you, but, you know, we'll see how things kind of play out. I'm so curious, because Yumiko's got a lot of ammunition under her belt, being like, well, what about all the other witnesses being there that no one else did anything either? Weren't they on trial? You know, so that it wasn't an accident, that people could, well, some people probably too terrified to testify about what they saw, that Sebastian was trying to throw Max to a walker and Eugene just, like, was defending her, so it was a self-defense type of thing. I don't know. Well, we'll see how that kind of plays out, but I'm so interested, because we've never had, like, a full-blown court situation. It's kind of a court of public opinion has always been how things have rolled in this universe, like, across, like, the video games or the TV show. Like, it's never been, like, a full court situation, because, you know, I'm trying to think, I don't think that ever came up even in Alexandria. Maybe Hilton, yeah, like I said, it was more like a court of public opinion. It was never, like, an official thing. Not that I really remember off the top of my head, but I could be mistaken. Now, with all that said and done, we have the other side of things where, of course, at least the only two people we're aware of that are free, it seems like, are Carol and Daryl, which kind of makes a lot of sense considering, like, the duo that they've always been. But also, Carol has always been the one that's always had that sixth sense. She's always kind of been that character for a while now that, you know, is ready to kind of jump on things given the opportunity. She's always like, she's ready for action. So that's kind of been a part of Carol's character for a while, so it makes sense she would be one of the ones. But luckily her and Daryl get together, and it's like, right, the only person they can turn to in this situation is Hornsby, which I was thinking like, well, there's no way. I was like, we're not going to find out that basically. Well, I was like, I don't think enough times passed that he couldn't serve up his dead ally anymore. But it's like, no, he did. He had to dismember the body and give pieces to keep Sebastian satiated, I guess, or at least away from him. And yeah, I mean, Hornsby's gotten his hands dirty, but slicing a human being apart and feeding them to a rotter. Not something he's used to. He's the big plan guy. He's not fully to get his hands dirty guy, but he kind of is and he kind of isn't. So they give him a choice. It's like, cool, we can't leave you here alive, so you have a choice. You help us find our friends, which he's like, I can't help you, but it's like, oh, I got to do something first. So when Pamela rolls up, it's like, cool, there's Sebastian with his head bashed in, a good chunk of his head bashed in, because they had already killed him, but it's like, yeah, his head bashed in, and it's like, I mean, because at least Pamela had the solace of knowing, like, it was her way of, because she even said that line, they're like, oh, like some of the political people were like, oh, we're sorry what happened to your son. She's like, Sebastian's always with me, because, yeah, he's alive. She's held on to him and kept him as a walker, because that way, like, yes, he might be a walker, but at least I want my son alive. It's like, well, he's dead now. So, I mean, he was already, but any semblance of you holding on to him is kind of gone now, considering, like, not only was he already dead, but his head's bashed in, and lo and behold, your boy, Hornsby ended up leaving the coin there. Oh, and the symbolism of, oh, the heads up of the coin is, the head of the coin is like facing up. So it's like, cool. And so it's like, yeah, I want you to know for sure that I'm the one that did this. And this is the whole point, considering like the whole, like, oh, like, flip of the coin deciding his fate, and, it's like, cool. So your decision to leave me alive is kind of backfired on you. So, and given the opportunity, like, I love that he's asking about, he's like, oh, I hope Daryl's okay. And she's like, shut up. Carol's like, because when they got separated, because she's like, I'm not stupid. I see you being manipulated. He's like, well, I'm just having a conversation. She's like, you asking about Daryl? It's like, don't pretend like you really care. He's like, but it's like, she's like, I know what you're doing. You're doing your little mind games. It's what you do. You get inside of people's head. You're trying to, because that's who Hornsby is. He's a fucking weasel. He's the opportunist trying to take advantage of every situation. And it's like, right, you left him behind because, you left him behind. They would have been dead weight or something. Yada, 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 so on and so forth, right? So, and because that's also the thing, it kind of plays into like the fact this Carol on many occasions has been on her own, especially after the prison situation, and Rick made the decision to kick her out, but then she kind of came back in season 4. That was like after the prison and everything, or that was before the cannibals, or was that after the cannibals she came back? I don't remember she was involved with the whole them getting locked up because of the cannibal thing. I don't remember now. Either way, it is a situation of Carol kind of has been on her own and stuff like that, and Hornsby just running his mouth off about, like, what happens after the fact. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, like, you get the, are you just going to leave the people of the Commonwealth high and dry? Because it's like, right, let's say Pamela doesn't survive this, there's going to be a power vacuum. Like, you and your people could lead the charge. You could see the gears turning, because immediately I'm like, oh, this bastard's trying to take advantage of this. He's like, oh, like, what you could do is you can run the place, and me, I could be your helpful advisor, He's like, yeah, like, he's like having someone, because he compares his relationship with Pamela to the way that Daryl and Carol's relationship is, because it's like, hey, at the end of the day, like, having someone who would do anything for you is kind of a rare thing. He's like, I was that person for Pamela, but the fact is, I thought like I could make her love me, and it didn't work that way. And he's like, because in my head, no matter what I did, I helped her build up the Commonwealth to what it is, but she got all the credit because we designed it that way. But now it's like, no, it pisses me off. Now I get none of the recognition. I get treated as what I've always been in her eye, the chauffeur's son. So I was like, oh, so that's your connection to like the Miltons. Like, you were just her, like, I guess her family's chauffeur. You were their son. So it's like, oh, so you have a decent history in that regard. So maybe that had came up previously. I didn't remember that because I latched onto that line. I was like, oh, so that's your connection. I feel like that hadn't come up before, but him just constantly asking what's after the fact. But it's like, no, I'm going to worry about after once I get my people back. And he's like, yeah, but what about the children? They're like, he's trying so hard. He's trying to like suck the milk out of this situation. He's trying to take advantage. Once again, he's just the slimy weasel that he is. even to that situation, like, obviously there was the whole Walker thing, like, Carol put all of them down, but then there was Hornsby with the flashlight, like, oh, I thought you were behind me. It's like, at no point did you just decide to help her, because you were going to be like, okay, if Carol ends up dying, oh well, I'm going to go off on my own. I don't know. I don't know what, maybe he was going to try, well, there's no getting back in her good graces, not unless he meets it, well, at least one of his people was dead. We don't know if the other one, like, well, we know that one guy, he ended up having to feed to Sebastian. We don't know if the fake, Stephanie, like, whether or not she, we don't know whether or not she was one of, like, because we saw, like, a dismembered body, but we don't know if, like, that was just that one dude or was it both of them. I think he said he had to cut up one of his men, so I don't know if she's captured somewhere. I don't think that's her working for, Pamela as the new, Max. I don't think that's her. I think that's someone else. So I'm like, where is she? Is she just held up somewhere, or is she already dead, or they have her locked up somewhere, waiting to serve her up as food? Like, that's why I'm curious, like, what Hornsby was going to do. Was he, because we don't know how much of his, like, those two are like his main people, but he probably had other people ready too, because we don't know what happened to them, not unless Pamela rooted them out and killed them as well. But maybe he was hoping, like, right after things were done with Carol, he'll meet up with his other people, continue his staged coup, kill Pamela, fill in the power vacuum, and kind of run things, like, you know, because this isn't just Pamela's legacy. It's not just Milton's legacy. It's also his. So, but the fact is, he's like, oh yeah, I thought you were right behind me. It's like, you were partway through that fight. She was dealing with that final Walker, and you were just standing there with the flashlight. You're like, oh yeah, like, you could have, like, tried to help her, but you didn't. So, but Carol handled it on her own. But ultimately, they run into some guards. Luckily, Daryl latched onto a ride, blasted all of them, and they got out of there. And I guess in that moment, like, I guess it kind of solidified, like, all right, so what are we going to do about this? So it turns out we find out the grand master plan that was behind everything, what Hornsby was really pushing for, and I guess even Pamela. The point is to build a railroad track. They've got a train, and they're going to build a railroad that connects all of the small communities like Alexandria and Hilltop, because the whole purpose, I guess, is like, they're like, oh, the places, these communities that you connect with, or rather the ones you end up conquering, is kind of how they put it. So that's interesting to knowing kind of like this train system and everything was, I mean, it makes sense, because I guess it's like, right, it also puts the Commonwealth at the centerfold of all of this, and kind of makes it kind of the centerfold of everything, and kind of just builds them up. Eventually, I guess the point is to kind of build the Commonwealth up even more and turn it into something probably, I guess, would be almost like, it'd probably be hard to really compare and contrast them, but I guess it'd be kind of something similar to like the Civic Republic, kind of something, whether it would ever get to that scale, probably like something of that ilk, when with the train system and stuff like that. But it's like, cool, all we have to do is follow that to our friend, so we don't need you anymore. He's like, no, like, what about all we talked? You know, weren't you listening to me? She's like, yes, I kept listening to you because I had no choice, because you wouldn't shut up. It's like, we know who and what you are, Hornsby. We can't trust you. You're always going to be the opportunistic bastard that you are. Also, you don't deserve any, like, we can't trust you considering all that you've done. We know the moment you get any opportunity, you will come with us, because come after us, because we're too much of a threat to you. We could be a threat to the power you have. So it's like, cool, you have a choice. We can either put you down or you can walk away. And he was like, I won't survive out there. It's like, yes, but we're giving you a chance. It's more than you deserve. So, but it's like, I could be so useful. Like, you're going to cast me and stuff. Like, we don't need you anymore. So run. We are giving you a chance. And Hornsby, I don't know what his plan was. I guess it was like, I'm going to kill you and still do my thing. Or maybe he didn't trust that they wouldn't eventually change it. Well, because I thought it was kind of more like we're going to give you a running start. Maybe if you're lucky enough. But it's like, no, they were just going to legitimately let him go. But I think they both knew, like, the fact is, I was like, is he going to honk on that vehicle? But it's like, no, because even if he alerted the guards, it wouldn't just be Carol and Daryl they go after. They'd kill him too at this point. So he has nowhere else to go. They were his last hope, because he was hoping to tag along with them, help them out, prove to be useful. And when they take, Commonwealth, it's like, either they're going to be like, hey, we're running things and we're going to use you as our advisor because it's like, oh, because I know this place, I know the ins and outs of everything. Or he's hoping that they will leave the Commonwealth behind and deem it okay for him. Because it's like, right, you're just going to leave these like 50,000 people to themselves. It's like, well, if that's the case, oh, well, when it's all said and done, I'll step in and kind of lead the charge. That might be kind of the perspective he had on things. But it's all irrelevant now. I picked up a gun and got an arrow to the neck. And I'm like, yeah. That's about right. And I'm glad it wasn't a fast effort like, oh, we're going to like kill you. It's like, no. You're going to leave you there to choke on your own blood and we're going to bounce. You know, it's like, yeah, it feels poetic. I kind of want you to get ripped to pieces, but it's like, hey, you're dead. You got what you deserve. Once again, it's pretty bad being able to having to choke on your own blood. But it's like, yeah. Once again, I thought Hornsby was being set up as the main antagonist. I mean, he played his role in Pamela becoming the monster she was, but I mean, I guess the argument is this is always who she was. It just takes, I mean, I guess that's the argument about any human in the show. It's like, right, it's always there. It's how you respond to the losses, to everything. And it's like, she was maybe always a powder keg ready to explode because she's all about control and that control was taken from her, plus her son, like how you respond. Because we saw what happened when Rick was upset about everything. He nearly killed Negan, but what did he do? He saved Negan in the end, like, you know, despite Daryl and Maggie's objections specifically, but either way. And then finally we see our hero, well, all those taken, they're all bagged up and they're being drugged so they don't put up a fight, but they're all being transported on a large amount of buses. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. Like I said, I am behind, so is already one more episode out. I don't know if I'm going to get to that today. I might get to it after this. We'll just see what the timing and everything. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.